Hi and welcome. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. I hope my chat's working fine. So
Small,
if you want to give me a
cave
test chat, I'll know.
dot the ravine walls. These must be the Caves of Chaos, where the cultists and their monster allies have made their base.
Yeah, if you don't mind typing something in chat so I can see if it's working or not. Anything, just say hi.
Most of the kobolds scramble to defend their cave at the sight of you, while one of their number scampers away. You've stopped the runner, and not a moment too soon. Who knows what else the kobold tribe might bring to bear against you?
Kobold smell all! Kobold
An elderly kobold demands your attention, calling for the cessation of hostilities. You've made a deal with the tribe. Strike down their leader to gain their support. that
Hi
the
there.
chief is dead,
Thanks for typing something in chat. I appreciate it.
know they are free of his ire.
I wasn't sure if the chat overlay was working, so thanks for testing it out for me. Especially from YouTube. And the emojis work also. What, from Warlock? Just 1 second.
The kobolds react to the news of their chief's death with what seems like relief. The elderly kobold offers you a reward for freeing her tribe from the tyrannical war chief. A secret door slides open in the common chamber. According to the kobold crone, their chief has been behaving strangely ever since he brought the charm of evil chaos to the cave. She's happy to be rid of both the chief and the vile talisman.
So if you're talking about the Warlock Blast, so basically there's two main things. One of them is the imbue dice. So how many different dice do you have overall that you can use at any given time? So the more imbue dice you can get, better. And the other thing you want to do is increase the spell power of that specific, whatever Warlock stance you happen to be in. So if you are in a Warlock stance who uses, I don't know, light power, so you're going to want to use that element, or if it's fire, it's going to be fire. So every Warlock has its own element, and you want to increase that, plus the amount of imbue dice you have. I think the evil damage over there, if I'm not mistaken, you're changing your force damage to evil damage. Is that the one? Because there's one of them who are basically you increase your base damage, not the special stance that changes to evil damage. You want, I can check it out for a second. Here, I'll check it out for you in the wiki. If I'm not mistaken, this is one of the trees in Warlock. Unless I'm confusing with something else. The Tainted Souls Soul Caster, I think. Based on what I can read from the wiki, is basically you do have to increase your evil damage, not your base damage. So, and that's alignment based. So you can use potency that increases everything, but it's not going to be as much as your specific one. The other option you have is alignment. Radiance. Radiance. The same thing that would do with light, which would be chaotic, evil, good, and lawful. So radiance. Yeah, radiance is what you want. Basically, increase your radiance spell, and that would be it. So it's not really intuitive, but radiance spell. It also will increase your chaotic, your evil, your good, and your lawful. All alignment-based spell power. So that's your answer to your question. Good question. Oh, fine. I don't know either. It's like one of those things. Spell power is really one of those. It's a. It's one of those things that's a real head scratcher. It's not obvious. How would you say your name? Sea Titan? Okay, so if you don't mind. Sea Titan asks, what do you do to increase your Utter Dark Blast from Warlock? And the short answer is you need to increase your alignment spell power, which will increase your evil spell power and increase your damage. Also, if you have more imbue dice, you should have overall more damage. There you go. That's a full answer.
Judging from the old bones scattered on the floor, something large and dangerous has lived in this cave for some time. But the flicker of torchlight ahead suggests that there have been some more recent arrivals.
There's a few different ways you can increase imbue dice. Some of them are from items and other things. They're rare, but most of them are from classes. But there are some from epic destinies also. So it's very hard to know what your build is and what would be the best way to tail specifically for you. But I can check for a second. If there's any low hanging fruit that I can offer. 1 second. You're playing just a pure warlock, sonic warlock. So let's see where you can get more without. You don't want to. You don't want to. You don't want to do any multi-classing. Well, in the enlightened spirit tree for warlock, I'm assuming you. I mean, it's sonic, so you must be using the normal warlock. You do have an option in enlightened spirit. If you take core 5, you get another 3 imbued dice. I don't know what tree you're going to go for. If you're going to go for the DPS or the more defense. But enlightened spirit, if you're going for the more defense, you get another 3 imbued dice from tier 5. you're going for the whatever it's called, mm, the one from Feywild, that tree, whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of the thing. Oh, you can still use the blasting. Doesn't make a difference. You can use the blasting stance or the aura stance. You don't have to be an enlightened spirit and use the aura stance. You can use the regular blasting. It just you can choose between which aura. The aura is a kind of a stance. So you can have an aura as a stance, or you can have your hands blasting as a stance, or a whole bunch of other things that are a stance. You can pick one. You turn it on. You can swap between. You can have them all on your shortcut bar and just choose between them for different situations. Either way, if you can go to still tier 5 and still use the blasting, you can use chain. You can use the chain. What's it called? Ability. Yeah. Okay. You can't have 2 tier 5s anyway. But okay. Let's see if there's anything better. What's your alignment? Are you lawful? Chaotic? Well, what's your thing? Okay. There's a few different ways you can get him in feats, but these are all legendary feats. So, the final legendary feat. No, you didn't. You're fine. I'm just saying, if you happen to be lawful, you'd be able to take a feat called Embodiment of Law or Harbinger of Chaos. Both of them. Well, depending on your alignment, you could get a few more like imbued dice. But there's other things you could take when you take your legendary feat. You can take Scion of Feywild, which will give you, when you get to level 30, the 3 dice. But these are like high stuff. I want to see if there's a whole bunch of like tier 2 and tier 3 and Epic Destinies that can give you things. But what level are you now? 10, 12? What are you? Okay, you've got plenty of time until then. Yeah, for now, I don't think there's nothing serious that will give you more imbue dice. So just basically increase your spell power. You want your alignment spell power, and you want your resonance spell power because it's sonic. Those things should be very good. Anyway, well, good luck.
The cult of evil chaos has set up camp in this cave, with the goal of capturing and taming the beast that lives within.
T-Titan asks, how can you increase imbue die? Short answer is, most of the abilities that increase imbue dice come from multi-classing. Many different classes have them, but also you can get a whole bunch of them from Epic Destiny feats. And closer to legendary feats, you can get, there's a few options where you can get them. And some very rare either set items or filigrees or legendary feats, but these are all kind of close to endgame. There's even a few augments, but all at endgame. Low level pure warlock, not much, other than tier 5 enlightened spirit.
You must now confront the creature he tried to tame. You spot skittering vermin inside the cavern chamber ahead. You can also see the nest of something much larger. You've slain the owlbear, ending the cult's plan to make the beast into a weapon they could use against the residents of the valley.
If anybody wants to ask a question, feel free. No pressure. I'm not claiming to automatically know everything, but I'll do my best to find you the best answer possible.
You enter the caves, determined to eliminate another threat to the residents of the keep. As the last goblin dies, you notice something glittering in the debris under the makeshift wooden walkway. The lock on this stout door does not look pickable. The guardroom door opens with the squeal of metal on metal, rousing the guards on the far side. The orange crystal flares to life as the lever is pulled. Somewhere in the tunnels, another crystal responds. You hear the squeal of rats from the doorway ahead. As the door opens, a small goblin cries out, "Meat sheep now! You go away!" The goblin falls. Looking around, you spot an iron key in the back of the chamber. The red crystal begins to glow, and the sound of stone scraping on stone echoes out from the goblin's common area. A foul stench wafts out from this newly opened cavern. This heavy iron-bound door is fitted with an unpickable magical lock. The door swings open on well-oiled hinges, startling the hobgoblins on the far side. You hear the sounds of guttural chanting coming from the chamber ahead. A magical barrier seals off the passage. Perhaps the magical runes on the wall are the key to opening it. Scrabbling and chittering can be heard from the hallway ahead. A strange creature erupts from the ground as you approach. The Umber Hulk crumples to the ground, its heavy carapace clattering on the stones. A massive iron gate bars this passage. When the lever is pulled, the traps in the hall grind to a halt. You hear deep voices in conversation up ahead. The hobgoblins in the feast hall fall silent as you enter the chamber. The last of the hobgoblins lets out a sharp whistle just before he dies, summoning reinforcements. This small chamber looks like a safe place to rest. The wall in the armory slides open, making barely a sound. The hobgoblin chieftain lurches out of his throne with a roar. The hobgoblin chieftain slumps to the ground, dead. Small, squalid cave entrances dot the ravine walls. These must be the Caves of Chaos, where the cultists and their monster allies have made their base.
If you got any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to do my best to answer.
You can see Gnoll guards ahead, blocking the entrance to their camp. Just as you brace yourself for a fight, another Gnoll calls out to you in a shrill voice. Eula Bloodgleam, daughter of the Gnoll chieftain,
I should emphasize DDO
has stolen
questions.
the charm of evil chaos to help you infiltrate the camp. She and the Gnoll Outlanders want to leave the Borderlands.
You there! If you're looking for a way inside, I've got just the thing. But I might need something myself.
terrible at any quest who has some kind of dialogue in it because I always just like click through everything.
This tablet belongs to a gnoll named Boomfoot, who claims to know a dark secret. Oro Sandcloak lets you in on a secret. Chief Bloodgleam has been lying to the Outlanders about sending their comrades to join the cult. If you can prove that Outlanders are being killed as sacrifices instead, it will destroy their loyalty to the Chief. The last of the vermin lets out a mangled shriek as you knock it into the dirt.
Well, not surprisingly, I failed all the skill checks.
You've stumbled across Kolva Pebbleskin's diary. The Outlander writes about losing her lucky rat bone. Finding it might persuade her to join your side. You spot a gemstone ring among the rubble of bones and blood. Oros said Gravemaw always wore a ring like that before he went to serve the cult. This proof of Gravemaw's death will convince the Outlanders once and for all that they should abandon the cult. Boomfoot reveals that Zark Soot Club, the renowned Outlander fighter, can't stand the sight of blood. Time to let Zark know what you know. The Gnoll nods in agreement. You've convinced enough Gnoll Outlanders to turn against Chief Bloodgleam and her cultists. You've convinced members of the tribe to turn against the Cult of Evil Chaos and found proof that Chief Bloodgleam has been lying about sending the Outlanders to work with the cultists. This should be more than enough to create an uprising in the Gnoll's ranks. Chief Bloodgleam bellows at the crowd. You would trust this outsider over your own chief? Have you forgotten everything the cult has done for you idiots? The Outlanders seem to reconsider. But you have something that will convince them. You hold up Gravemaw's bloody ring and reveal that you found it in the chief's shrine. Chief said Gravemaw joined the cult! Someone shouts. But Gravemaw never took off that ring! He's dead and will be next! Chief Bloodgleam whistles, calling forth a pack of deadly beasts. Another group of gnolls rushes into the chamber.
I'm playing primarily monk, but it's combined also with cleric and paladin.
Another group of gnolls rushes into the chamber.
The goal of this build is basically to have it, well, it's called the Caduceus build. Basically, I've got a stick where I can smack things. I can either heal them or kill them. So basically, as I'm hitting things, I get health.
You think you've won against the onslaught of gnoll cultists, but then another wave floods in, calling for blood.
I'll explain more if you want.
You look around at the blood-stained earth. Not a single cultist remains standing. The Outlanders cheer, relieved that they can finally leave the Borderlands behind. Those fools! I can't believe they took the bait! Eula stands beside Oro, who laughs with her. There must be more to these two than it initially seemed. With Chief Bloodgleam and the other cultists out of the way, Eula and Oro can finally escape into the wilds together. As they turn to leave, Eula tells you to hold on to the charm of evil chaos she gave you, in case you need help defeating the rest of the cult.
Yeah, I'll show you. So basically, this is the idea of this build. When you play as a monk, if you're playing a quarterstaff monk, so you have this ability over here. Shadows cannot exist without light. So if you're a dark monk, you get to take this. And I can use it every 6 seconds, and I attack things. And for everything I hit, I get 100 healing, which scales with healing power and, healing amplification. So I whack things and I heal for a whole bunch. Okay, it's also just plus 20% damage. That was a good attack. From War Priest, I took 5 levels, so I could get the second ability that you get from your deity. But anyways, the point is this. I have this extra strike, so when I use my Smite Foe ability, it heals. This is only every 12 seconds, but with this together, it heals and restores, hits me for restoration. So again, I'm attacking things and I'm healing at the same time. And finally, this is going to be later in my Epic Destinies. So I'm going to work up through Divine Crusader when I get to the top. So you have these Mighty Crusade, and you have not this, here, this one. Crusade and Consecration. Basically what happens is every time I use my abilities, my my Smite abilities, it will trigger these abilities. So I have a build who later I'm going to take the points that I put in this tree in the Sacred Defender and dump it back over here and make sure I get this ability, which is Exalted Smite, which is a cleave who basically gives you +2 critical and +2 multiplier, but it's charge based. So I'm going to have probably close to 20 charges. And every time I do that, I'll have my Epic Destiny abilities trigger, which also give me healing. So basically, it's I attack and I heal, I attack and I heal. That's basically the gimmick of this particular build. So I've got my stick and I whack things and I heal. So that's overall that's the structure of this build.
Small, squalid cave entrances dot the ravine walls. These must be the Caves of Chaos, where the cultists and their monster allies have made their base. Whispery voices and scraping sounds announce the presence of undead. Be free. Life is meaningless.
Do not listen to
Divine purpose.
Out!
Free will is an illusion. You notice an expensive-looking gem embedded in the throne made of human bones. As you pluck out the gem, you hear the soft scraping of bones. The dead rise.
Hello. Thank you for stopping by.
The passage ahead is blocked by a cave-in. About 20 man-months would be enough to
Feel
dig
free to
through
ask
it.
your DDO
Or
questions.
5 dwarf
I
months,
do.
give or take.
I hope I'll be able to answer them. Yeah. Well, first I have to get the build all the way up to cap before it actually becomes a finalized build, because this is like the second draft of this build. I already made one time this build and it wasn't optimal. So now I'm doing a second version of this build, leveling it up based on my experience from my first round. So making a good build takes a lot of time, yeah. Yeah, well, I realize that a lot of time I'm sitting and I'm like just leveling my character. So I might as well just do it on stream. And I'm not a chatterbox. I can't just sit here and talk and talk and talk. So that's why it's Ask Aldbar. So you want to have a question, you'll ask. If not, I'll just be silent. So I don't feel the pressure like I have to talk all the time and entertain. And if anybody wants to ask a question about DDO, I'll be very happy to answer. So thanks. Yeah, setting up the live stream was kind of a nightmare. I am a bit of a perfectionist, and I wanted to be able to stream on YouTube and on Twitch at the same time, which doesn't really work as easy as you'd think. There's a whole bunch of like little small details. For one, I mean, you see the chat. I'm not very good at turning my head and looking at the chat all the time, so I have to have the chat in front of me at all times. So I have the chat actually on my screen, overlaid on DDO, even though I'm playing basically full screen mode, which was its own can of worms to get working. Yeah, this particular build, I said before, it's called the Caduceus build. It's basically what's it called, Paladin and Cleric. So yeah, that's basically the. And right now I'm basically leveling it up. Hopefully, if I get to 34, I'll be able to make a proper build guide about it. This is already the second draft, so this should be basically final. Because the first time you run the build, you don't really know what you're doing, and you make assumptions, which part of them are right, part of them are wrong, even if you have a lot of experience, and then you optimize it before you like publish it. There's no reason to suffer if it's suboptimal. So I try to make it better. The first time I was doing this build, when I got to these levels, when I was level 20, I couldn't solo things on elite. I was getting killed way too fast. And this is the second time, and you can see I'm doing just fine. I'm just level 22, and this particular quest is, let's see, the base is 22, so this is 24 now that it's on elite, and I don't seem to be struggling, so it's definitely more solid. Also, my gear is not optimal and stuff, so it's, if you don't need optimal gear and you're doing okay, that means it's a good build. So hopefully, eventually, I'll be able to make a build guide about it. The project I've been working on for a long time now is to make the ultimate new player build that any player who starts the game can just like pick up and try out. And the goal of the build was to make a build that basically covers all the bases. So if you leveled it all the way to 34, you would know basically everything you need to know about the game, so you can make your decisions about, okay, I like this aspect of the game, so next time I'm looking for a build that does this. And you could work your way there, but also have a solid build who actually does everything. So, yeah, long-term long-term goals.
You hear footsteps down below, and a gruff voice calls out.
Put them in the manacles, boss. I'll be right over.
The large torturer does a double take.
Hey, you're not one of us. What the?
The torturer falls, his victims avenged. Will their souls find rest?
You're more than right. The new player experience for DDO is absolutely horrible because it's like kind of like if you're trying to edit a video. If I gave you the old movie maker to start with it would be like, well, there's not that many options, so you can figure your way out. But if I gave you Adobe Premiere Pro with all the settings open, I said, okay, edit your first clip, you wouldn't even know how to import it and what settings to start because like you'd just be overwhelmed with the amount of information. So it gives you everything. You start up a new character, you basically have access to like the vast majority of the games. Like, good luck. And that means you're gonna make mistakes. Thanks for joining.
You hear a shuffle, then a strange, slurpy sound coming from behind the crates.
I don't mind dying to this gelatinous cube, but I want to be in range of the shrine. If I fail my save, I'd rather be able to recover. Yeah, you can change it. You can like just totally disable it if you want. So, at least there's the option, that option.
The sneaky gelatinous cube falls to pieces. Its ambition to eat you diced short.
DDO really has only one claim to fame, and that it gives you the ability to customize your character. I mean, you're playing whatever kind of characters you would like. It takes the RPG element and pushes it to the max. You can build whatever you can possibly think of, and that's it. Doesn't really have... It's not competing in any other aspect with any other game, but this particular aspect it has nailed down.
The white falls. Its pitiful existence ended.
I usually add music to my videos, but I found out that if I try to stream on YouTube and on Twitch, one of them is going to give me a copy strike because, oh, I don't have the license to play on their platform. So I have to like find music that works for both. So I found a few songs and I used one of them for my like intermission. But other than that, it's like too much of a hassle to find music that's for sure not going to be copyright claimed on both platforms at the same time. So yeah, sorry for the silence. I can turn back on the game audio if you would like. So if somebody says yes, I'll turn it on. Other than that, it grinds my gears and it drives me crazy. So I usually turn it off. I don't think I've ever heard actually the music for this location.
The prisoner in this cell is a Medusa.
You. You don't look stupid enough to be a cultist.
She calls out.
Tell me what you're doing here, and I won't turn you to stone.
Thing about the Medusa is if you're not facing it, it does absolutely nothing to you. Well, at least the eye attack does nothing.
The Medusa snarls at you.
I'll turn this whole valley to stone if I have to. I am its rightful queen. Serve and be spared, weaklings.
The Medusa falls. Her plans for the valley, good or ill, die with her.
This particular build, well, you should always start with what's it called, with Chronoscope. I mean, it looks like a pushover raid, but if you don't have any self-healing, you'll just die in that raid. I can tell you right now the weaknesses of this build. This build doesn't have good range, so anything who requires ranged will kind of struggle. So, Master Artificer, it will have to like go for 2 rounds at the end because it's not going to be able to beat down Toven in 1 round. So, you're going to have to beat down the Titan twice. But this build should be able to solo most of like the low tier raids without much problems other than that. I mean, it doesn't have any special abilities, so it can't solo Titan with this build because it can't self-resurrect. It might be able to actually do a Curse of Strahd. I do have 5 levels of Cleric, let me say. Yeah, I've got 5 Cleric. I can do Curse of Strahd technically with this build. But it wasn't set up for that. But, yeah, maybe. Are you itching to watch me solo some raids? Again, because the first like 10% of the health you have to do by hitting the Demon Queen from the platform with ranged. This character has basically no ranged abilities. It'll be terrible. So, it will work. It'll be very slow. Also, I forgot to rebuff. Got distracted. My first round of this particular build, who's sitting now at level 34, who's suboptimal, has been running Demon Queen and Chronoscope every like 3 days, farming legendary greater tokens of the 12, whatever. On Epic Elite. I mean, if you want to see that, we can do that. for the record, yeah. Most of a lot of the good items that come from the deserts you can now just buy for with the antique bronze tokens, like 625 of them you just get from the desert or from looting chests and stuff.
Unseen voices
But
murmur from the shadows
some of the
this
items you
chamber.
need from the raid. But yeah,
Take us with you.
it's not too hard to do it.
No, get away.
10 times on elite you can buy an item.
Take the shinies.
As you pick up the shiny golden tableware, the murmur of the voices rises to a triumphant
Oh yeah,
chant.
we can do Demon Queen after this. I don't think that this character is flagged yet. I left the flagging for Epic. No point doing it twice. But I do have builds who are like specifically geared toward soloing raids. I've been putting out a series right now, whatever it's called, Max Favor, which has a character whose purpose is to be able to solo all the raids in DDO. And so it's not maybe the optimal build for like leveling, but ultimately it will have all the different class abilities to be able to like readjust its enhancements so it can solo all the different raids with all the crazy raids that have like very specific requirements. But if you just want general soloing, I have a much more stable build. But it's on Orion, not on this server. Yeah, just for the spellcasting abilities. I recently ran, what's it called, Inferno of the Damned with this character. And I found out that they bugged out all breath abilities no longer work on the torches. So the Mephits over there who are supposed to light the torches can't do it because their breath abilities don't work. So you have to have like some kind of spell casting ability. So before I broke down and eventually got myself some UMD item and made it work, yeah, I was like, I wish I had that staff. I don't. But I wasn't gonna spend the runes to bind it. My main server on Orion, I've got multiple accounts. So if I'll be running a raid, I would have my entire crew with me, helping me pull items from the chest. Over here on Cormir, I only have one account who's VIP, so I can't run multiple accounts. All the other accounts are all premium, so they won't work on Cormir. And I'm not going to pay subscriptions for another like 6 or 7 accounts. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. I can, based on my statistics, analytics, or whatever it is, the favor videos are not that popular, and I'm hoping that they're kind of a slow burn, basically. So because I made sure that they all have timestamps, and that every video will be, hopefully, it will like for long term. If you're looking for how to do this quest, there'll be a video guide someplace. We'll show you how to do it. I want to cover every video in the game, so that is the goal, hopefully. There's a zombie there crowd surfing. Yeah, I'm hoping to, I don't know, try to figure out what's like the best way to get your first 100 favor. What's the fastest way? That's very useful. Because when I was new to the game, I was like running favor on every server. Like I wished I knew what would be the fastest way to get to your like first 100 favor. Which quests to do. Because some quests are a trap. They're like longer than average, but you don't actually get that much favor. And some of them are very, like you can shortcut them, finish them very fast and make lots of favor.
This gets a reaction out of the voices.
Soon join us. Is that what I think it is?
None can resist the power of chaos.
Listen. You need to go. Listen to them.
You don't know what you're doing.
Say the whispery voices.
Oh, it's fine, isn't it? It's fine.
Who knows what will happen?
Between the agitated whispers, you hear other, less supernatural voices coming from the nearby hallway. The voices whisper triumphantly.
It is time. Don't do it.
Ring the bell.
Join us. Join us. Stop.
You ring the bell, and the voices are finally quiet. A demon's voice.
I hope this guy
rings
doesn't
from the
get away.
vaulted ceiling.
Too soon you summon me into your realm. I shall punish. Wait, you're not him. It doesn't matter. You die. All of you will die.
The demon falls and its body turns to dust. The temple is silent once again. The last of the undead guardians
Got
of
him.
the temple crumples. Will they rise again? Or will they stay down? The fleeing priest's voice turns into a scream and is then cut short.
Oh boy. I have to find closest shrine. Too bad I don't have a sprint boost. All of that just for this. Well, I guess that's it. We're done here. I think that was the last one of this series. Holy Paladin calling it a battle cleric? Not really. Because the battle cleric will have way more healing than the paladin, and the paladin will have way more defense. They're not really the same thing. You can start with both bases and try to get to the same point, but ultimately one of them is geared more towards healing, and one of them is geared more towards defense. It's going to be much harder to make a good tank out of a cleric. It's going to be much harder to make a good healer out of a paladin. But you could make some kind of mid-ground character from both. So who was it before who asked about soloing Zawabi's Refuge or Demon Queen? You still here? I will take that as a no. Oh, you are here? Okay. Fine. So I guess we'll do Demon Queen for you. I happen to know I'm off timer, so I need to do it anyway, so. If somebody wants to watch me do it, sure. Yeah, so what you're watching now is a version of what I was playing before, but not as good. Make sure I change the right stance.
This must be the hellish lair where the wizard king summoned Layla to Eberron. The air is sulphurous and corrupt.
The way he stands in the lava makes it hard to hit him. Now that I'm consistently hitting him, it goes much faster. See the shrine? It means you need to hit like and subscribe. Thank you. I'm obligated by law to say that every time.
Churns with instability. You doubt Zawabi's magic can hold it open for long.
How dare you trap me in here with genie tricks? You will pray for death before the end.
This is the hardest part for a pure melee character. You have to damage her and she's way off, out of reach. Could of course increase my spell power, but couldn't be bothered. You need to get her down to like 10, take down 10% of her health.
See how my enemies
Okay, we've done it.
about like jesters. I tire of such foolish hedge wizards and half-wits. How I despise you. I will craft a special torment for your soul.
I don't actually know. I think you can unlock Merlith in the monster manual, but it's a lot of them. There's not a lot of them in game, so that's a lot of farming, and I've never done it. So I don't actually know, sorry. I can check, I guess, the video wiki, but probably after we finish the raid. Not the second, please. She's immune to electricity, she's got resistance to fire and cold, and she takes full damage from acid. She's a demon. Any minute now, she's going to go into her final phase, I Am War, where she no longer teleports away. She goes into rage. Here we go.
My body is broken. My power fades. May
Got him.
Lilith's death curse be upon you all.
It's a bit less than 3 days, so it's 2 and something, but yeah, practically speaking, every 3 days. It's an if you logged on every third day, you wouldn't have to like wait for the minute of 72 hours to pass. It's less than that, whatever. You can use a raid timer bypass though. Here's what I did it for: the greater token of the 12 and the sand runes. Don't forget, before you go, I missed it. Clicked on the wrong thing. Collectible. Now we can go. Let's just check now how much hit points the Demon Queen has. Probably a few 100,000. I don't know, 450,000 maybe. That'd be my random guess. Wiki doesn't say specifically, so I'd have to actually go and check it on my monster manual. I have to kill 320 Mirliths before I can tell you how much HP it has. And I've only killed 14 on this server, so yeah, not happening anytime soon. Maybe on Orion. There's a good chance I have it, like a fair amount open over there, but I'll have to go check over there. If you're soloing, self-healing is critical. I primarily solo, so everything I play, build, whatever, is always going to have some kind of self-healing. And if you're trying to do soloing raids, it's even more important because you can't like fall back on a hireling. It's just all you. So yeah, you learn pretty fast how to incorporate self-healing into any build you play. Most important thing is don't forget to turn in your raid. Anyway, so that was that. The other two raids I have flagged with this character that I've been soloing is TOV, is whatever it's called, TOD, Tower of Despair, and Chronoscope. Thanks. The devil you know. That's the name of the actual quest, but everybody just calls it the Tower of Despair.
Dry heat and the stench of brimstone ravage your senses as you penetrate the warrens of tunnels beneath the mighty Tower of Despair. It seems the Devil Turncoat has cleared the way for you. A devil stands below waiting. Is this the informant you have been sent to meet?
They force you to watch the show. Oh, thank you. I know that the quick stick build is a little bit out of date. Some things no longer exist. Some things has been fixed and changed, but overall, even with all those things, it's actually, they fixed it and the game is better. So even though some of the things don't work anymore, there's better ways to get those same things. So I'm glad that the build is still relevant. Thank you very much for the feedback. Have to sit here and wait for them to finish talking.
Old enemy, now turned unexpected ally, has been captured and imprisoned. The thing I'm looking for here is to get a ring. And, well, actually I really need daggers. I already have a ring. I just need a dagger so I can upgrade my ring. You can add plus amplification, which stacks with everything else, which is really crazy for a build like this, which just depends on being able to heal itself all the time. So healing amp is everything.
Your unexpected fall lands you in a hellish prison. Ahead to
I'll change from my more DPS stance.
prisoner.
Faster damage. Gotta wait for the little gates to open. Meanwhile, they'll knock me around. Okay, gates are open. Now I've got a safe spot to stand in where they can't throw me around. And he still can throw me around, but I'll hit the ceiling. I'm using Melfang, and this quarterstaff is not fully upgraded. I didn't bother because this was like the test run of this particular build, and once I got to 34, I was like, okay, here's all the mistakes I made, and then I just started from level 1 with the build that I was playing before, without all those mistakes. So that build should have a fully upgraded Dinobone quarterstaff, and I'm going to give him the, whatever it's called, affirmation, whatever it's called, legendary affirmation, the one who gives you 1,000 hit points of when you hit things, but I'm not going to spend it on 2 different characters. Oh no, all the self-healing I'm getting is not from the quarterstaff itself. It's from the build. And this guy teleported himself inside of a wall, I think. Oh, that was a first. Now I need him to teleport himself out. I'll step away.
Ferocious jailer and his partner, the judge. Now you can free Eretrikos from his magical cage. You pull the lever, and the magical now that Eretrikos has told you the passphrase, you will be able to breach the gates.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Sorry. I just have to. Need to remember to swap back my stance before I get to the final fight. I've died already twice there because I forgot to do that.
With no small trepidation, you utter the disconcerting passphrase, Eberron burns. A shiver runs down your spine as the looming gates swing open before you. The room grows cold around you.
Let's just change it now.
Begin to flutter and take shape.
thing to remember about this fight is that the shadows, their cold tick, is every time you enter and exit their aura. So as long as you're just standing in one place and they're standing next to you, you're not taking much more cold damage. So actually running around and them being like almost being able to catch you is much worse. Because every time they get into range, they tick you for cold damage, and then you step out, tick you again. So just stand in one spot if you can. If you can handle the damage.
Your hope strikes hard, and Netherios loses focus. Shadows wail and depart, and the trapping barriers fall away.
Hi there. Andy Coffin, that's your name? Hopefully, yeah. The goal is to stream more. Been working on trying to get the format down. I can stream consistently because I realized that I can't sit and talk the whole time. I'm not good at that. I need people to prompt me. So that's why the stream is called Ask Aldbar. Just got any DDO questions, ask them, and that'll get me going. But if I have to like figure out what to talk about, I can't. It's not my thing. So no stress. But if you got any requests, you want to see some kind of, well, this wasn't requested, but Zawabi's Revenge or Demon Queen was requested, so I soloed that. And if you got any quests, do you want to know how to solo, I'll be more than happy to show you. So feel free. And yeah, I plan to do more streaming. So. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, my time zone is completely off schedule with everybody else in the world, so I don't know. Maybe my weird time zone will suit other people. We'll see.
The Shadow Master erupts into flame, screaming as his essence is banished back to the void.
He's a regular pit fiend, so he does all the normal pit fiend stuff. He does poison damage with constitution damage and other things, but he's like surrounded in shadow and he does cold damage. And most of the damage you actually suffer from him is because of those shadows that he keeps on summoning, run up to you. And as they get close, they hit you with a aura that does cold damage. And if too much of it stacks up, it'll just overwhelm you and kill you. So either you have to kill it very fast or just don't move and don't have the aura go in and out from around you. And yeah. Should be fine. Wild Maze Surge. Look at that. This new or something? Never seen this item before. I am going to rest. Rebuff. Yeah, let's go. Yes, and that is a brand new item.
You burst into the great chamber of the Devil Council, apparently interrupting a heated argument.
Because for what it's worth, it's completely useless to me, but maybe, I don't know, submit a picture to the wiki. Sadly, the newest expansion is not that good. It's not bad, but it's not great. Its main fallbacks are that the XP per minute and loot per minute are just not that great. But if you're just in there to, like, you want to enjoy the content by playing around and running around, yeah, it's pretty good. Curious to know, does anybody actually look at the button presses I use?
With a roar, your old foe Sulamades charges into the fray, eager for revenge.
Yeah, the loot from the new expansion is the big disappointment. You look through the wiki and you see great loot and you're like, oh, this looks like the best stuff ever. But it's not. I'll tell you why in a second.
With a final frustrated roar, First General Horror falls. The battle is over.
Okay, so I'll explain what's wrong with the loot. If you just look at the loot for face value, it's the best loot in the game, straight up, no problem. No denying that. We're good on that account. Here's the problem. Having loot that you can't acquire doesn't count as good loot. So if I have to get a piece of loot, but to get this piece of loot, I'll have to loot a chest 10,000 times, it's not called good loot. So what happened is they made the loot, they divided it into two categories. There's normal loot, and then there's what they call rare loot. So let's say you're running Elite, you've got a 33% chance of pulling a piece of named loot. So that quest has like 5 pieces of loot. So you'll have to run it a few times. Every third time, on average, you would get a piece of loot. What are the 5 pieces you would get? Thing is, they made some of their loot called very rare loot. And that loot only drops, not 1 out of 5 when you get rare loot, but only like 0.3% chance of the time you'll get that loot. So now all of a sudden you have to loot the same chest thousands of times, or reroll many, many times, and spend many, many shards to get that loot. And once you look at the loot, which part of it, oh, thanks for the follow. If you look at the loot and you decide which part of it is on the rare list and which part is on the normal list, you find out that all the stuff on the normal list is not better than the loot we have already, but the loot that's rare, the good stuff, it's just unattainable. So basically, it's not actually like they added new loot, because realistically, you're not going to get any of that loot. So if you like build and you're like, ooh, I'll use these 5 pieces, you're not getting that loot. I'm just sorry to say. So it's not actually practically attainable. So that's the big problem with it. Basically, I wouldn't count the loot. If you want to see more about all the numbers, Axel from Axel's DDO channel made a video going into all the percentages with all the full breakdown of how the thing works. It's depressing what they did. I don't know. They kind of messed up. I mean, if they put 1 or 2 pieces behind a rare loot, fine. But having some really solid gear just be normal would have been kind of okay, because it'll be some of the gear is good. But basically, from what I found, all of the normal stuff that falls in, like all the just regular named stuff that you get, is just not better than, like, just use Sharn's set. It's like it's not better. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's like, okay, it's okay, rare, you know. It's okay gear, but it's not better. So if you're buying the expansion for gear, you don't have gear to get there. Not realistically. That being said, if you do happen to run it and you do happen to find a piece of gear and you do happen to get some of the rare gear, because eventually it's going to drop, well, yeah, the gear's awesome. You have an item for low level, I think level 13, it gives you 15% legendary bonus to your hit points. That's great gear on paper, but since you can't get the piece of gear normally, you'll have to find a rare raid boss in the wilderness who running out to it takes you about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, hoping that he spawns in, and then have to loot the chest hundreds of times. That's not considered adding gear to the game if it's not really there. So you can't look at it and say, oh, we have new gear that's good. That's the problem. So sorry. It's depressing because it's a really nice expansion. But another thing that you have to keep in mind is something called gear, the gear per minute. It's not just, there's XP per minute everybody knows about, but also gear per minute. If I want to get something for Borderlands, I can run the quest to the end lots of times in less than a minute. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 minutes if I'm just going to the end to loot the chest. So if I'm looking for a specific piece of gear, I can loot that same chest pretty fast. It won't take me months or years to loot it. Okay, fine. So I might ransack the chest once. I'll have to wait for a week for it to unransack so I can do it again. But after a week, I'll have the item. There's nothing who's so rare that it's like, oh, I'll find it. Well, anytime it's, something who's that rare, it's impossible. And so, anybody else have some kind of request for a specific quest or a raid or something that I might be able to do? Why did they do this? I don't know what was going through. I think somebody realized that if they do it like this, so then people will just re-roll many, many times to try to get the piece of loot. But this essentially is loot crates, and as far as I'm concerned, it should be illegal. I don't know. Somebody should sue them for making it gambling, because that's really what it is. You're just making people like, ooh, you got a very 0.3% chance to get, this particular item. All you have to do is just spend a little bit more money, and eventually you'll get it. And it's a very slippery slope, and it's very bad. So I don't know. I don't know why they did it. They messed up big time. If they put like 1 or 2 of the very rare items behind this wall, but most of the rare stuff was good, and you could just get it like normal loot, I would forgive them for it. But they put like basically all of the good stuff behind this wall, and all the stuff they didn't put behind the wall is just like, okay. It's not terrible, but it's like, I have a piece of item I'm using for a cosmetic. The previous build I was playing, part of the look was like, I'll make this character, so yeah. Sure. Which is more important for TR and what, like which things? Oh, you mean the leveling process? If you have base gear set up for the leveling, it will make a huge difference. Because you can make a build who's entirely supported by gear, you can make a build who's entirely supported by the build itself. And if you're just doing TR for past lives, not necessarily that you will know exactly what you're doing. You're just playing some kind of character, and you're like, okay, now I need to do Artificer. I don't know how to play Artificer, so I'll just put something together and run it. If you have good gear, you can like squeeze by faster.
I think that if you're gonna do a lot of TRs, having certain like essential gear is very recommended. It'll make everything much easier. You won't have to like min max and optimize your build. You'll be able to just rush through the past lives much faster. A lot of times what players will do is they'll make a build who's not dependent on a class and just make it dependent on a universal enhancement tree. So that basically make they'll make a ranged version, you know, out of everything. Doesn't they're playing cleric, we'll make it ranged. They're playing, you know, warlock, we'll make it ranged. They're not like they're just taking levels in some character in some class, but they're actually just playing the universal enhancement tree. And then you would be more dependent on gear because if you had the good gear, you could like squeeze by easier. And they'll just play multiple lives of basically the icon next to their name changes, but they're just playing the same build again and again. So it's an option. I find it monotonous, and I don't think I'll do that. For Epic TR, same thing. I think that if you have good gear, you don't have to. You don't have to have crazy gear. But if you have like a good set of gear for level 20, that will make life much easier. Another thing you can do about TR is make sure you pick up all the epic sagas, complete all the epic sagas every past life before you complete them, and don't take the reward. Then you do an epic TR. It doesn't send you back to level 1, and it doesn't reset your quests. And then you pick up your rewards for the sagas, and it'll jump you up to like level 24. It'll save you to like the first few levels, who are very grindy and very hard. I'm over here. I'm still not level 23, and it's kind of taxing. It's a little bit difficult. Well, I've been streaming for a few hours. I think.